Good evening and welcome to the annual organizational meeting for the Village of Pleasantville. We have several important things to do and then a list of required resolutions that are dry as dust. But I am delighted tonight to congratulate David for his reelection, signing on for a third time. Congratulate Yemi Healy for joining our board for the first time, and to congratulate or sympathize with myself for signing on for another term. So
we can congratulate.
We're fortunate to have our village justice, John Bukel, here. And the order of events is we will have 3 swearings in, me, David, then Yemi. Each of us will offer a few brief comments, and then we will have a little to say about outgoing trustee, soon to be trustee emeritus, Michael Peppard. I'm happy to note that we've got a bunch of families here, a bunch of kids here, and we have brought down the average age in this room, perhaps to its lowest level ever, which is great news. Mr. Justice.
Why is he walking? Why is he walking?
You can help me if I mess this up.
All right.
This is my first time.
I believe I did this for you.
Well, Judge Curley.
Oh, right, Judge Curley. Damn. I thought it was going to be a trade.
All right. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Peter Scherer, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
That I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of New York,
the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Code of the Village of Pleasantville,
and the Code of the Village of Pleasantville,
and that I will faithfully discharge
the
duties of the office of mayor for the Village of Pleasantville
the duties of the office of mayor for the Village of Pleasantville
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Mommy,
What does?
who was eating that?
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, David Vinjamuri,
I, David Vinjamuri,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of New York,
Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Code of the Village of
and
Pleasantville,
the Code of the Village of Pleasantville,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office of trustee for the Village of
the
Pleasantville
duties of the office of trustee for the Village of Pleasantville
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
My turn.
Mom.
Your turn.
Go up, guys.
Come on.
Come on up.
This and the fire department were great.
All right, if everybody wants to raise their hands, I mean, this isn't legally binding on the rest of you. I, Yemi Healy, do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of New York,
Wow, you know
the State of New York,
and the Code for the Village of Pleasantville,
and the Code for the Village of Pleasantville,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office of trustee for the Village of Pleasantville
the
Mom,
duties of the office of trustee
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Good. Good job, guys.
Thank you, Judge.
That about sums up what it's like to be on this board.
Okay.
I should see ordinance.
So each of those of us who have signed on for another tour of duty and Yemi for a first term, take a moment to offer a couple of thoughts. The first is, thank you so much, David, for signing on again. This is term number 3.
Yes.
And while we're at it, thank you, Nicole and Paul, for having signed on before, and especially Yemi rising to the occasion here to join this board amid the responsibilities of a big and growing family.
Yeah.
But nothing really could be better than to see the sort of generations renewing all that we do in this room. So thank you for allowing us to borrow David. Thank you for allowing us to borrow Yemi. And to the Picard crew, thank you for allowing us to borrow this guy. And if you were responsible for keeping him from running again, we very much regret it. But certainly, it's great news to have Yemi doing this. So I begin tonight my 6th term as mayor, which feels a little crazy. Certainly no execution of a plan that I began with. But I can tell you, as I think lots of us know, this place turns out to be kind of affecting, and it snares you with its virtues. That was the case for me when I moved here 30 some odd years ago, and I lived very close to the high school. My wife and I had no kids. We were commuting to the city to work. We're not home all day. We had all of the imprints of people who would have no connection to the community, but we lived right next to the high school, and we were constantly swarmed by people. And I dare say that that is not inconsequentially related to why I stand here today. So we certainly are at a place where the work of honoring our past, managing our present, navigating our future is a challenging task, and yet we do that with a really enormous good resources behind us. First off, a great staff. Thank you, Eric Morrissey. Thank you, Alyssa. Noreen Regan, our treasurer here. Stephanie Tim Austin, our justice clerk. Thank you, Judge. They are among a bigger group of people who have really served this village and this community extraordinarily well. We have our moments like every big family does, but I can say with conviction, having sat at this table for a very long time, that we have a really extraordinarily good bunch of people who are here for the right reasons and who come to work every day aiming to make this as the best place it can possibly be. So the last thing I will note is that tonight, in the course of this election, we manifested what has been the case for decades in this community, well before any of us, and that is a great tradition of nonpartisan elections where nobody runs under a national party banner, and nobody runs because they were connected to some bigger machine. People run because they want to do it, they care about their community, and they go out and get the required signatures, hand them in to the Board of Elections under an independent nominating petition, and the chips fall where they may. So I can tell you, obviously have lots of relationships with mayors and supervisors in other communities. I am very, very often approached by people who say, I only wish our politics were like Pleasantville's. That doesn't mean we always agree. That doesn't mean that everything is, always smooth sailing, but I can say, having served for many, many years on this board, we've had people on the left end of the spectrum, people on the right end of the spectrum, people who identify with all the major parties and possibly some you hadn't heard of. And none of those people have come here for the wrong reason. And they have joined together under the banner of this place called Pleasantville. And I think served it well. So I look forward to another 3-year gig. I thank you all. And most of all, thank all these kids in the room, and including Alyssa's. Oh, your kid left.
They took a drive.
Just
really coming back.
Good. Nothing could be better than to think that your community is represented by people across the age spectrum. I will say with vague regret, that makes me the gray guy, but glad to be here, and I thank the community for its support.
So I'm excited to serve another term. I know we're going to talk about this in a minute, but I'm really going to miss Michael. Having sat next to him for last 3 years. For my first 3 years, I sat next to Steve Lord, and I still miss him every day I'm here.
Who do you miss more?
And Steve and I have probably had very different, like, innate national politics, but at a village level, I felt like I learned so much from him, and it was really one of the great experiences, as was sitting next to Michael and wishing I had also done my PhD in religion as a religion minor undergrad. I think that Pleasantville very much at the moment falls into that blessing or curse, may you live in interesting times. And we are in interesting times now. We're in a time that was foreseen a generation ago when the current master plan was first created. And people were looking at villages and towns that were both thriving and failing around the country and said, well, what does it take as we're sitting outside this great, enormous economic engine, which makes every single piece of land within 100 miles of it more valuable every single year, makes it harder for ordinary people to live in any of those pieces of land, and can easily create a cycle where we live here, our children grow up here, we can't afford to retire here, our children can't afford to come here, and nobody who works in a business here can afford to live here either. And that has a bad cycle of effects on any community. It means that there's more traffic, there's more people commuting in. It means that families tend to look more and more like one another and have less and less to learn from one another. And, you know, I think we're fortunate to be the beneficiaries of some people who thought about that and thought about how can we start to move away from that. But the basic fact is we still face an environment where our expenses last year were up 8.25%, 8.5%. Yeah. And our tax cap let us increase our taxes by a little over 2%, a little under 3%. So there's a big gap there. And to meet that gap without making it even more unaffordable for villagers and worsening these problems, we have to make this and keep this an economically viable village for everyone. And I think we've been lucky to do that. And any of you who've been here long enough, you know, 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years, you know that this feels a little bit different when you walk downtown today. It feels a little bit livelier. It feels like there's more things going on. It feels like there's more things happening. It hasn't come out without a price. There's a lot of angry people last year in the high school auditorium because on top of everything else, we had the Sawmill River Parkway diverted through our downtown while we were engaged in several major construction projects, and everybody was still home and dropping off their kids multiple times a day, you know, at the high school and the middle school and the junior and the elementary school. And all of those things conspired to make traffic a nightmare at least 2 to 3 times a day. So from all of that, I think that we face a new and important challenge, which is to think about affordability in the village, to think about how seniors can remain here, to think about how lower income parents and just ordinary people who make what would be a great living in any other part of the United States can live here, and their children can be with our children, and we can have a fair place for us to all grow up. So the thing that I will spend the next 3 years doing, and I'd like to kick off as an affordability task force, hopefully of citizens, that can help us think about all the marvelous experiments that are going on around the country right now, to allow for the development of lower income housing for ordinary people, both low income and ordinary people, but affordable, truly affordable housing. And that's what I want to spend the next 3 years doing. So thank you.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
I'll make mine kind of brief, but it's been a journey to get here, and I just want to thank everyone for your support. I am I guess a lifer of Pleasantville. I grew up here, going to school here, and I have my kids here, and I felt very called, I guess, in a way to serve, just to step up if I could. And I think that my journey to this space, with the encouragement of many of the board members, and the community was just how to help connect the dots, how to help listen. So my theme really just entering into this whole new role is to listen and learn. It kind of feels like I'm going back to school. I have, we all have very busy lives, and I think that sometimes this is a really good chance for Pleasantville to have the people that did grow up here to also come back and contribute. And I feel like my parents were very heavily involved in the community. My mom was a crossing guard. My dad worked at PCTV. And I just felt like this is a tradition I'd like to continue. I really want to thank everybody, specifically all of my neighbors and everyone that, and the board, just everyone has been so amazing and supportive. I, again, have a lot to learn, and I hope to listen. If there's anything that I could do in this 3-year term, it would be that. And, yeah, I really appreciate everything, and I look forward to it. So thank you so much.
So as already mentioned, the elephant in the room is that this guy, Michael Peppard, is departing our midst. I like to think of it as he's departing the village board. He's obviously still living in the village of Pleasantville, and so we can think of all kinds of things we need him to do. And assuming we don't say, okay, you gotta be here at 7 o'clock every other Monday, maybe he'll say yes. So in the course of this, if you guys have anything you want to chime in, you should do so. Just think back to the time when I first talked to Michael. He was talking about running for the board, and then did so and was elected. Website Peppard for New York, and he was off to the races, and has been the case for me. When new members come to the board, you sort of start hunting around and Google around and say, who is this person? What are they about? What do they think? And when you type in Michael Peppard, PhD, you're in for a long project. Because this is a guy who has a long history in the academic world, a distinguished historian and theology professor at Fordham University, and a person who has had lots to say, as he has on this board, about the intersection of public life and ethics and all that makes us tick. So Michael's the second PhD on our board at the same time, which I think makes us probably really special in ways that we thought we already were, but now we're down to one. But Michael, the first, certainly in my tenure here, and I think to my knowledge ever, first time we've had an active professor teaching at the same time and sitting on this board. And that has been a gift to us, and it's been a gift to the community. It's a gift we will miss, but which we soon will still have some access to. So it's been a great run. I have already suggested that at some point down the road, when life settles out and some of the immediate challenges of a young family and your professional life aren't quite so pressing, maybe you'll be back. What do you think? All right. So, anyone want to add something there? I have a couple of things.
I'd like to say a couple of things. Well, first of all, we'll miss you, Michael. I will miss having you on the board. It was a great pleasure. I feel like, and I'm really happy that Yemi's joining us because I'm feeling really good vibes. And I've enjoyed every iteration of the village board that I've been a part of, but I've particularly enjoyed this group that we've had. I feel like we've worked really well together. We represent different segments of the village. We live in different parts of the village. We're connected differently. And I feel like it's been a very thoughtful group. And one of the things that I've really admired about you, Michael, is that you have been very connected with people in the community. You really sought out voices from different parts of the community. You know, you really would go out and talk to different people and try and get a feel of how people felt about different subjects and are very thoughtful in the way that you process that and bring that back to, you know, the nuts and bolts of what we do. And there were numerous points when your perspective challenged mine. You know, I would come in feeling strongly about something and would have to revise my position in the light of the information that you brought. And so, and I know that you've been juggling a lot of different things. And so we're all really grateful that you were willing to include this work along with everything else. And, you know, and I agree with Peter that we'll find a way to bring you back in some form or other.
I'm just gonna share one story, which all of you may not see, some of the back scene things that we do. When we're in our budget season, we have these very long meetings, and last year, for some reason, we had a lot of them in our conference room. We quickly determined that we could not deplete the coffers of the Village of Pleasantville to feed ourselves, even though we were here from like 6 to sometimes 10 or 11 p.m. Day after day. And so we decided to take turns bringing food, and sort of course, you know, I brought pizza, we brought food, and then Michael shows up with this gorgeous hand-cooked meal. That was like some of the best food I'd eaten that week. And it was really quite extraordinary. So that is like the extra effort that goes into everything that he does.
A lot of care.
I add to that, that was without question the best food ever served at 80 Miller Avenue. And likely the best that ever will until you're back.
I'd like to thank Michael and his family for the time, that service that he gave to us. I think his insight in a very challenging time that the village has gone through with a lot of the development. I think the insight that he took, and to echo what Nicole said, that he really had this way of just really getting out and talking to people. And I think that's one of those important parts. I think that just made him really, really relate to the rest of the community, and people felt like they could be very comfortable with him. And I'm definitely gonna communicate with him continuing forward. I know he has, he has a lot of connections. He has a lot of communication with a lot of people. And I think that's what's amazing. He's so open to just having discussions, and look forward to seeing him playing some music and somewhere. So I congratulate you for, making the time that you're doing for your family, for your career. And obviously, whenever we can get you back here, I'm sure we find a way to get you to do something. So thank you again for all that you gave him to your family. Thank you for letting us have him for at least those 3 years. I really appreciate it.
So Michael, could I ask you to come up here? You park yourself right here. I have a couple of things to give you. And then you can offer your comment. You can, you can tell the unvarnished truth. So first thing I have to give to you is this frame that says Michael Pepper, Trustee 2021 to 2024, with respect and appreciation for thoughtful and dedicated service to the Village of Pleasantville. On behalf of the grateful community, be it resolved that April 2, that would be tomorrow, 2024, be known as Michael Pepper Day throughout the village. So we have not been boredom, but don't go.
Yeah, do I have to go to work then?
Yeah.
I've been
So-
So, exactly. See, if he stayed, it wouldn't have happened. So as I mentioned in my wanderings through Michael and his academic history, here's a guy who spent at least some of his life as a historian parsing through the relics of antiquity to find new meaning. And Pleasantville, of course, has only been around 127 years, but at some point, all that goes on today and all that went on in the last 3 years will be part of some sort of antiquity, maybe a sort of an American style antiquity. It's only, 50 or 75 years. But anyway, with that in mind, and in keeping with the 21st century notion of writing history forward so that the PR consultants get it right, we have created here and provided in a burlap sack a scroll, which I'm hoping that you will you'll bury it somewhere, maybe a cave. It's kind of a, this is,
I hear there's a cave in Pleasantville.
there is talk of this. And, this is like our little version of the Red Sea Scrolls. The Dead Sea Scrolls. Sorry. All right, so here's, you unroll it and, includes a brief history of the aptly named village of Pleasantville.
Wow.
Goes on and explains the settlement, the Native American tribes that were here before, American Revolution. I'll just fast forward rather than read the whole thing. But it talks about the arrival of the train station downtown, which bypassed the old village, and the fact that created a new sort of neighborhood up there became known as the old village. So I'll pick up here with Pleasantville was incorporated as a village on March 16, 1897. That's 127 years ago, almost to the day. The older district at Bedford Road and Broadway is today called the Old Village. Many prominent Pleasantvilleans took up residence in the adjacent residential neighborhoods, including academic and civic leaders such as the well-known historian and theologian Michael Pepper's. So as you may know, there's a picture. A picture of Michael Pepper. It's, all those years ago, they were able to capture that likeness. Pepper was elected as a village trustee in March 2021. His oath of office, administered by Justice John Curley, was affirmed on the 5th of April in 2021. Pepper's first motion for consideration by the board, resolution number 2021-65, was to designate the records access and appeals officer. The village archives memorialized this resolution, which according to the record passed without apparent dissent. Thus began a 3-year period of prosperity that historians later identified by its now common title, the Pepper era. In early 2024, Pepper announced that his growing portfolio of responsibilities made it impossible for him to commit to another term as trustee. His departure from the village board and the attendant expressions of sadness and regret from his colleagues and constituents did not diminish the rich memories of his civic service. By some accounts, the Peppered era continued for a decade or more beyond Peppered's village trustee. His deep care for Pleasantville, its people, and its traditions remained evident. A loyal sentry, he stood watch from his perch on a hill above his beloved old village, occasionally commenting on the fits and starts of village affairs. So it is my hope that you'll marry this song. It will be found.
Yes.
And it will be read aloud, and Pleasantvilleans of the time will be reconnected with the Pepper here. So thank you, sir.
This is amazing.
Tell the community what you think.
Wow.
Well, you have no idea how appropriate this is. I do bring my students to look at ancient papyri and talk about the ways that we do. One of the only ways to do history of non-elites in the ancient world is through papyri, through papyrology. It's ancient trash. And it's the only ways you can see everybody, know what they were up to. So I'm very grateful. It's also appropriate because one of the first things I did when I moved to that house was try to figure out who Daniel P. Hayes was, because the name is on the firehouse, on the hose house there. And sure enough, I spent 3 years sitting right near his photograph as one of the early mayors of Pleasantville. But in my further research on him, I got very into the Westchester Historical Society records and archives about the Hayes Hill area. I was very moved to find out that he was a part of the creation of the first public school and giving it a non-discrimination clause by religion because of their Sephardic Jewish heritage and having fled from the Inquisition. And that's, I guess, a segue to say that that the patriotic emotions that were stirred by that discovery of the history of the person on, you know, who has settled that land where I live. I would say that those patriotic feelings were amplified over these last 3 years. So I'm going to be a little bit earnest and hokey just for a couple moments and say that one of the main things that I've learned here in my 3 years is how many small acts of service go on in this little building that cause our democracy to function. And I really had no idea how few people actually were running this place, you know, because so much gets done. But it really, so many of these decisions are being made, you know, day in and day out by, of course, my colleagues on the board, and Eric and Alyssa and Noreen, who I see, and thank you for the cookies, Stephanie. Also, my daughter wanted to thank you for the cookies too. But also our department heads. I mean, my goodness, DPW and Parks and Rec do so many different kinds of things every single day. And you might imagine that there's an army of hundreds behind all of this, but it's really a small group. So I felt patriotic and stirred kind of about the powers of local government through exposure to that. I don't have too much more to say. One thing that I think I'm proud of how the board worked together, as Nicole, as you said, I'm proud of civil disagreement. I think that's my one big takeaway from this, is that sometimes when we think about democracy, we think about voting, right? That's like the heartbeat of democracy, and it's important, no doubt, it's important, but it's not really like the heartbeat of democracy because it's so pure, it's so sporadic, right? But the heartbeat of democracy, I think I've learned from this, is being able to disagree civilly about whether you should have leaf blowers or not, about whether you should build a building or not, about whether you should consolidate your police force or not, about all these kinds of things, you know, that happen at the local government level. And that civil disagreement was modeled by Peter, is always modeled by Peter, and is enacted by my colleagues. So I'm so grateful for that. I want to say one thing about each of you specifically. I could say a lot of great things about all of you, but I'm grateful to David for always keeping his eye on, as you said, affordability. But an example of that would be the scholarship program for our summer day camp that we enacted, which is a relatively modest budget. It is a modest budget line for us, but it's a very, very big deal for families that are able to use it. And that's the sort of thing that the moment he said it, it seemed obviously a thing we should do, but I wouldn't have thought of it myself. And he brings that to the board. I'm grateful to Nicole for always keeping an eye on the natural resource aspect of our charge. What the village board is, it's actually in our list of what we're supposed to do is be custodians of the village's natural resources. And one could maybe just read past that phrase as antiquated, but it's more important than ever, right? And so always keeping my eye on that is wonderful. And Paul, many things I could say, but everyone knows his work on the chamber, and I think Paul is really a genius at understanding how government can create conditions in which businesses thrive, and that's most of what we can do for businesses, right? I mean, we have a division, of course, between government and business, but through his liaisonship with the chamber, we can kind of create moments. We can create possibilities, let's say, in which businesses can step in and do what they can do better than we can. And so grateful to all three of you for those traits. And to Peter, I would say that the big thing I already said, which is modeling disagreement, right? So we don't agree on every single thing, but you always have fair-minded words, and you have an open mind about what all the other adults in the room are bringing to the table, and actually the children too, what they're bringing to the table. So yeah, I guess I don't want to take up too much of your night here. I'm very moved by the gifts, and I'm very moved by all the words that you've all said. welcome, Yemi. It's a wonderful experience. I'm feeling a little bittersweet standing here. You'll see, you'll see the operations of things you never could have imagined. You'll never imagine that you're gonna read budget line items that you're gonna read. And debate the procurement policy of paper towels and things like that. And whether to get an electric, mower. But these, like I said, these are the kind of small items that go on 1,000 times per year that make this democracy work. So thank you very much. I'm honored. We can go now, right? No resolutions?
Yeah, you can go.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
See you soon.
Indeed, all of you can go. What we have to do now is what we have to do every year, and it isn't that exciting. You are absolutely welcome to stay, but we don't expect you to. All right, here we go. Resolution number 90. Paul, let me share my screen. For the interest of those who may wish to follow along. Let me get to that. There you go.
I have it up to. I know when you're ready.
Okay, great.
Result that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the following persons to the positions listed below for the terms in accordance with the village law. Village Clerk, Eric Morrissey, 2 years, term end date April 2026. Deputy Village Clerk, Alyssa Hochstein, 1 year, April 2025, term end date. Register Vital Statistic, Alicia Houston, 2 years, April 2026. Deputy Register Vital Statistics, Eric Morrissey, 2 years, term date April 2026. Village Treasurer, Noreen Regan, 2 years, term end date April 2026. Deputy Village Treasurer, Kristen Pungello, 1 year, April 2025, term end date. Associate Justice, Virginia Collins, 1 year, April 2025. Prosecutor, George Pappas Esquire, 1 year, April 2025. Assessor, Lloyd Tash, 1 year, April 2025.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Hi.
Aye, motion approved. 91, Nicole.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby designates Alyssa Hochstein, Deputy Village Clerk, as the Village Records Access Officer, and Eric Morrissey, Village Administrator Clerk, as the Village Records Appeal Officer.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Hi.
Aye, motion approved. That was the peppered first resolution. 92. Michael, David.
Yeah, resolve the Board of Trustees shall hold their regular meeting at 8 p.m. on the second and fourth Monday of each month, except April, when the organizational meeting shall be the first Monday and shall convene at 7 p.m. Work sessions shall commence at 7 p.m. on the second and fourth Monday of each month from May through February, then every Monday at 7 p.m. during the months of March and April. When any such meeting date falls on a legal holiday or other conflicts arise, the meeting date shall be amended by the Board of Trustees. Location for all in-person meetings for the Board of Trustees shall take place at Village Hall, 80 Wheeler Avenue, second floor, unless otherwise noticed.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Hi.
Aye. Motion approved. Number 93. Yemi, your very first.
My first one, resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby sets the following procedure for calling a special meeting by the Board of Trustees. A special meeting can be called by either the mayor or at least 2 trustees acting together. The Board of Trustees will be contacted by telephone, text, or email. In the event a special meeting is to be called, all attempts will be made to contact the news media and public as soon as practical after calling for the special meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. 94, Paul.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby designates the Journal News as the official newspaper for the Village of Pleasantville.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Hi.
Aye, motion approved. 96, Nicole.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the following authorized signatories for financial transaction at all depositories: Peter Scherer, Mayor, Noreen Regan, Treasurer, and Kristen Pungello, Deputy Treasurer.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. David, 97.
Resolve the Bank of New York, J.P. Morgan Chase, Webster Bank, N.A., and N.Y. Class B and the same are hereby designated as depositories for all funds of the Village of Pleasantville and is hereby directed that all funds of the Village of Pleasantville shall be deposited in said banks unless otherwise specifically authorized, and be it further resolved that no funds shall be paid by the treasurer of the Village of Pleasantville except pursuant to a judgment or order or an audit and allowance by the Board of Trustees as required by law, and an order designating such funds signed by the mayor or deputy mayor and countersigned by the treasurer, or in his or her absence by the deputy treasurer, and be it further resolved that all checks or drafts or instruments for the withdrawal of money from the village from said depository shall be signed by the treasurer. Payment of principal and interest on duly issued village bonds and certificates of indebtedness or tax notes may be paid by the treasurer without specific order or audit of the board. Compensations for services of employees or officers regularly employed by the day, week, month, or year may be paid by the order of the treasurer for services actually rendered or performed without specific order or audit of the board. No wages shall be paid to laborers except on a payroll certified as correct by the official of the village directly in charge of the work for which money is being expended, and provided further that the rules of the County Civil Service Commission have been extended to apply to such employees or officers by the treasurer, then the trustees shall not audit any such bills rendered for compensations for services, nor shall the mayor sign or the treasurer countersign any orders for the payment of payroll for such employees or officers until such payroll shall have been submitted to the County Civil Service Commission and certified by it that the payment or employment of said employee or officers is in accordance with civil service laws.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. 98, Yemi.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the village administrator to approve in-state conferences in accordance with General Municipal Law, Section 77-B, and further resolved that all out-of-state conferences shall be approved by the resolution of the Board of Trustees.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. 99.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby sets the standard business mileage rate for transportation expenses for village employees using their personal vehicle for village business as per the rate guidelines set forth by the Internal Revenue Service.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. 100. Go.
Whereas the Board of Trustees has determined to authorize payment in advance of audit of claims for public utility services, postage, credit card, merchant fees, freight, and express charges. And whereas all such claims shall be presented at the next regular meeting for audit. And whereas the claimant and officer incurring or approving the same shall be jointly and severally liable for any amount disallowed by the Board of Trustees. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees authorizes payment in advance of audit of claims for public utility services, postage, freights, and express charges. And all such claims shall be presented at the next regular meeting for audit by the Board of Trustees.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. 101. David.
Resolved, the village treasurer is hereby authorized to implement the Village of Pleasantville's investment policy, which is attached.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yemi, 102.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby adopts the Village of Pleasantville's purchasing policy.
Which is attached. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. 103, Paul.
Resolved the Board of Trustees hereby adopts the Village of Pleasantville's fiscal policy.
Is there a second? Second. Fiscal policies attached. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. Nicole, 104.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby adopts the Village of Pleasantville's credit card policy, which is attached to the resolution.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. 105, David.
Resolved, the Board of Trustees hereby approves the following village petty cash and confirms the limit on any reimbursement for out-of-pocket expenses to village employees from said funds at $20. The Justice Court, the purpose is change and reimburse, $200. The Finance Department for reimbursement expenses only, $150. Finance Department change for payments only, $100. Recreation Department change and reimburse for $100. DPW refuse change for payments only of $100. The Clinton Street Center change and reimburse $50.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. 106, Amy.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the following employee policies. The policy, anti-harassment and discrimination policy, cyber breach notification policy, cyber security policy, drug-free workplace policy, employee handbook, equal employment opportunity policy, public employer health emergency policy, sexual harassment policy, vehicle use policy, village code of ethics, and workplace violence policy.
Is there a second?
Second.
We're not trying to scare you off there. All in favor?
Just read it by tomorrow.
Aye. Motion approved. And the last of our organization night to you, Paul, number 107.
Read every person's name.
Yes.
Result, the Board of Trustees hereby approves the mayor's appointments of the following persons to various boards, commissions, and committees. Starting Planning Commission, Architectural Review Board, the chair, 3 years, Russell Klein. Member, 3 years, Philip Myrick. Member, 3 years, Henry Leva. Zoning Board, member, 5 years, Erica Krieger. Ethics Board, member, 3 years, Bernard Gordon. Conservation Advisory Council, member, 2 years, Lisa Brown. Member, 2 years, Andrew Ryman. Member, 2 years, Susan Todd. Member, 2 years, William Serlin. Member, 2 years, Don Willman. Member, 2 years, Michael Inglis. Beautification Committee, Chair, 1 year, Kathy Dinkle. Member, 1 year, Tanya Cunningham. Member, 1 year, Elizabeth Ward. Member, 1 year, Pat January. Member, 1 year, Marilyn Ross. Member, 1 year, Marlene Canopy. Member, 1 year, Virginia Pancati. Member, 1 year, Elsie Rattenbury. Member, 1 year, John Mueller. Member, 1 year, Mauro Simochowski. Member, 1 year, Amy Melissa Gladstone. Member, 1 year, Maggie Murphy Verdon. Pleasantville Recycles Committee, Chair, 1 year, Stephanie Els. Is that Els, right?
L's, yeah.
L, yeah.
Member, 1 year, Edwin Quo. Member, 1 year, Andrea Garbarini. Member, 1 year, Helen Muir. Member, 1 year, Virginia Pancati. Member, 1 year, Pradeep Bowie. Member, 1 year, Kim Turner. Member, 1 year, Dan Turner. Member, 1 year, Francesca Monita Waller. Member, 1 year, Carolyn Ramsey. Member, 1 year, Gina Sedell. Climate Smart Task Board, Chair, 1 year, Ben Servant. Member, 1 year, Helen Muir. Member, 1 year, Russell Klein. Member, 1 year, Anjali Puri Southall. Member, 1 year, Craig Gibson. Member, 1 year, Seth Gladstone. Pedestrian and Traffic Safety, Co-Chair, 1 year, Terry Conway. Co-Chair, 1 year, Andrea Putnam. Member, 1 year, Rosemary Susie. Member, 1 year, Irene Mustich. Member, 1 year, Brian Catalano. Member, 1 year, Stefan Papalardo. Member, 1 year, Maria Amato. Public Arts Committee, Co-Chair, 1 year, Marlene Canopy. Co-Chair, 1 year, Stuart Vance. Member, 1 year, Lisa Hartz Akon. Member, 1 year, Andrea Garbarini. Member, 1 year, Janet Lanza. Member, 1 year, Barry Shankman. Member, 1 year, Jim Coleman. Member, 1 year, Gregory Nemick. Member, 1 year, Leslie Shore.
Is there a second?
Second.
Can I just make a comment?
Yes.
So we're missing Helen from the, Conservation Advisory Council. She's still the chair, and I think you're probably missing a couple other people too. So I would maybe ask her.
I'll call her.
Did you?
Oh, I
Yeah.
actually have a meeting with her tomorrow, so I'll go over it.
So we certainly can add
And I'll add them. on-
Helen as the chair of Conservation Advisory Council,
I'll
2
add
years,
them.
right?
Yep, and then next week I can.
Add that. So
Yeah.
that's
Whoever else.
acceptable to the mover and seconder.
Yes.
Yes.
Further comment, questions?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you to every one of those folks who volunteer for these committees and boards.
Indeed.
Very, very, very much appreciated. That is the last of our resolutions on our organization night. We'll be back for our regular meeting, back on our regular schedule. That's next Monday. Tonight is just putting in place the new members of the board, the returning members of the board, and the list of stuff we have to ratify on an annual basis. So
I have a couple quick items for discussion. Should we do that now or? What do you think?
So we haven't noticed a work session.
Okay.
So are they matters that need to be addressed now versus next month?
Well, one concerns a letter.
Sure, go
that I
ahead.
would like us to draft.
Okay,
The Public Service Commission is deciding how to allocate funds for NYSERDA for the next few fiscal years. And there is a threat that they're gonna cut the Clean Energy Communities program that we've benefited from significantly in the form of grants that we've spent on purchasing electric landscape equipment, electric vehicles and so on. And so Hudson Valley Regional Council, which is sort of an intermediary that has helped us in our grant proposals, is proposing that we draft a letter on behalf of the board to encourage them to continue to fund this program that we've benefited from. So,
Fine by me.
okay.
Anybody
That
have
was-
an opinion?
Sounds good.
Okay, so I can work on that, you know, with you guys. The other thing, this is maybe for, just to put on next week's, or next time's work session, is the conversation about whether to have a cleanup Pleasantville day that we would coordinate with Mount Pleasant is having a cleanup day. So I just wanted to get that on the agenda, basically.
Great, thank you for that. All right, again, thank you, everybody. A special thank you to Michael Peppard, who remained because he wanted to hear the resolutions. Thank you, Village Justice Kel, for joining us. Very much appreciated. Thank you to everybody in the community for your support as we all begin new terms.
And if we don't see you tomorrow, happy Michael Pepper Day.
Yes.
There are only a few more hours to plan your activities. Is there a motion to adjourn? Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all.